Welcome back to the Bodhi Bros, folks. I'm excited, and I am John with a freaking J.
And I'm Phoenix Ray. Namaste.
All right, man. I love the lights. I love the aviators. Ray, it's always great to see you. I'm pumped about today because we're doing the same thing that we've been doing, and we've been enjoying it. Ray is going to pull a card today from one of his decks, and he'll share what that is with us in just a moment. Here it
I'm
is.
gonna go with the Earth Warriors. I feel like today is a good Earth Warrior day. It's kind of fall, kind of earthy,
Kind of warrior-y.
kind of warrior-y.
Perfect. And so as he prepares the deck, readies himself, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Let me just tell you a little bit about what we do if you don't know already, and to bring you up to speed if you do, just sharpen the edge a little bit here. You can use this as a reading if you'd like. You can set an intention and or ask a question and use this card as an answer to your inquisition, or a message or guidance system, if you will. Or you can just join us in this conversation. We call it like a spirit talk. We say, we both open our hearts up. Ray pulls out a card, and we channel Source, and Source says, "Boom! This is what you guys should talk about because this is what people that tune in are a match to as well, and would benefit them in one way or another." And we have fun with that. Sometimes, usually are you ready?
I'm ready, man.
He's freaking ready. I'm over here, blah, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's ready to for the magic show. Let the show begin.
All right, so this is number 2. I don't really know how I say this right. Estanophilia, turquoise changing woman.
Okay.
So turquoise changing woman. So I'm gonna look this up and I'm gonna read this number 2.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as
So
far as
I
the
never,
name,
I've never seen this card before either. So
okay. And so at the end of the show, send me the name so that I could put that in the comments of what the actual card was, since we can't really, I can't identify with it, so it would help the audience as well to maybe see it.
all right, you ready?
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Change is upon you. It is essential for you to. It is essential for your continued growth, and you do not need to fear it. As you allow for this change, remain steadfast in your inner spiritual connection. This gives you courage, trust, peace, and reassurance, and you will find ways to navigate the shift so that your life improves through the process. If you're thinking of making a change, you are encouraged to do so without trying to force it. Be open and do your part to the best of your ability, but also tune in to your sense of divine timing, asking the universe for help and allowing life to unfold according to its own rhythm of creative, loving intelligence. So it sounds like about change. Seems
Which
to be the.
is great timing considering we've just shifted into a change of season of sorts, as you mentioned earlier. Autumn is upon us.
Right.
It's
Earthy and it's warrior.
it's my favorite time of year. My favorite season is autumn by far, which is kind of beautiful and wonderful because the partner that I've manifested, who now, over this past week, we've celebrated our 6th year together. Golf claps and poetry snaps for that beautiful union. Her name in Japanese translates to autumn harvest.
Wow.
So there we go. Bada bing, bada boom, right? Um, I love this card. I love this topic. First and foremost, as already mentioned, because we've shifted into a new season. And I feel like when that happens, that the energies that are all around us significantly are altered. If we're open, aware, and engaged with it, it can be quite a transformative, energizing, and inspiring thing, man. I think especially when you live in an area that you see a significant change in the external environment, if you will.
Oh yeah,
and
especially
and,
in
and
Ohio.
for you, it's got to be, yeah, talk about that. What happens there for you in
Well,
Ohio?
what happened was like right now it's 55, and it seemed like a couple days ago it was almost 90. So
Wow.
So it was very dramatic. It's very dramatic. It is very fall like right now, and it's just like wow, like it's just crazy how it just turns fall and bam, suddenly now it's like wearing jackets and coats yesterday. I wore a hoodie to work yesterday.
Yeah.
A couple days before I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts.
Wow.
So it's very dramatic here, the changes. And
Yeah.
a lot of people aren't really used to that. They don't really like that. And I think that's, going looking at the car, a lot of people don't. There's a lot of people that don't like change, that
Mm,
fear change, and change is the only constant thing that there really is in this world, because everything is constantly changing. And here, and you have to be open to it. And maybe even like when you do fear change, go into like why you fear that change, and go into that fear of what you're holding on to and why you're holding on to it. And maybe and there's nothing wrong with whatever the reason why. Maybe it gives you a sense of comfort, some of those things you hold on to, but eventually it's all going to change. you
right.
know the mood changes, everything changes, so you just have to be open to that and stay kind of fluid and see it all as grace, and meet it with compassion and openness and a nice, sincere thank you.
Yeah, I think the seasons are a nice, gentle, sometimes more harsh, depending on where you're at, reminder of that change. I mean, as much as you want to control it, and you think you're going to build a rain machine and a climate control device, like Mother Nature is going to do its thing. And I think that's a nice, loving reminder from our home planet that says, like, hey, listen to your internal guidance system, listen to all that is you, and from a very foundational place, not, as much as you can, silence everyone and everything that's been force fed to you, and you've plugged into and been programmed by, but come to that original place of source love, and listen. You'll, as the seasons change, maybe in stride and synchronicity with Mother Earth, do so in your life in one way, or one or multiple ways, or the other, or others. And here in Orlando, it's much different than Ohio. It's not as severe as of a shift as I wish it could be, because I love the cool weather. I love wearing jackets and jeans and just coats and hats
Mhm.
and hoodies and stuff. We don't get to do that very much here. Here, the shift has been um, very, very minuscule. However, what that little sliver of adjustment provides here is this like ray of hope. Like, oh my gosh, the oppressive humidity and just debilitating heat that can be Central Florida, you feel it begin to like very mildly dissipate, to the fact where, like, at noon, like high noon when the sun's ablazing, right? I would never dare go for my afternoon walk, or just my walk of the day if I'm only doing one walk that bit. Nope. If I missed my early morning, window, I gotta wait till the sun goes down to walk. Now I'm starting to feel like I could walk at any point of the day, and it's not going to be that treacherous, which is great. So I've been getting in the car, and the internal temperature on the car, the thermometer says 103 degrees. It's like, woo! Now it's saying like 89. So it's still hot. And when you walk outside, you're not like, oh, how refreshing. But for us here, it is refreshing. And it provides that, all right, things are about to change. And I think if you're plugging into it and you're paying attention, maybe that's Mother Nature rubbing your shoulders, going, yeah, things are changing. What are you doing in your life to allow that change? And you're like, oh, okay. Fill in the blanks.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, change is going to happen no matter what. But I think if you go inward enough, there's always that part of you that hasn't changed either. It has kind of remained the same. There's a part of us that changes constantly externally, and everything as we grow. Maybe we get more wise. Maybe we become, thinner, fatter, stronger, weaker. We mentally we learn more. Maybe we learn more stuff. We have more awakenings and stuff. But I think there's like, if you really go deep within, there's a part of us that's never changed either. There's an unchanged part of us, kind of like in the deep. It's sometimes it's like really, really deep in the background. It's
Yeah.
almost like that part of us that just like witnesses it all. It's like that part of us that's like just that pure consciousness. I think they talked about that too when that Jack Cornfield video that we did
Oh
that we
yeah. Forgiveness.
he said like how you look in the mirror and you see like, oh man, like I look older, but there's a part of you that's that same person look in the mirror. I think he was saying something about that where
Yeah.
that's something that person has never changed. You're still that the inner child is still there. That all those people when you're young, that innocence is still there. That deep part of you is still that has not changed. That's always why that always knows that part of you that's just witnessing all this. It still hasn't changed, and so I mean that's something that we can kind of, I guess, maybe find connect with that in a way too to kind of help relieve some of the stress of change and maybe some of the the fear of change, the resistance to change, is to kind of connect with that see that part of you that is always remained, that's always just been kind of there in the background, the witness, the eternal witness.
I like that. I also feel it's important that we bring up. I think the reading touched on this briefly. Is it's got to be authentic change. It can't be forced change. Like you're like, all right, it's autumn, the weather's getting better. I'm gonna lose weight now,
Right.
right? It's that doesn't work. It's not.
No.
It's not. It's not like okay. I mean, that's a good place to start, because you're welcoming change, but that's just the beginning. It's not like, all right, I'm going to work out, I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to start because that's just I'm going to push all the junk food out. I'm not going to all the bad habits away, and you're just totally you're bypassing. So the work begins, I think, you alluded to, by going in and figuring out, doing the work, the inner work to figure out, why have I put on this extra weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was I trying to protect? What was I trying to repel? How was this weight serving me? How has it been of service to me? And how do I make peace with where I'm presently at, not hating my body, not all that negative self-talk, but listening deeply to that child um, that called for this, because they were scared and they're like, I need this for protection. And so by integrating with your inner child and doing the shadow work or whatever words you want to dial up into the equation, and meeting the needs of that inner child to make them feel protected, safe, healed, will allow you to shed the weight almost effortlessly, by no longer being in resistance to those traumas that have held you back, or that gave birth to this new body of yours. I don't know if I'm articulating that properly, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's important to see. Like, if you want to make a change in your life, where is that change coming from? A lot of times when people want to make a dramatic change, it's coming from resistance of something that they don't like about themselves or something that they don't approve about. So they're trying to like just, you said, just kind of bulldoze those things. But those reasons, let's say we'll take diet, we'll take body for an example. Maybe you use comfort food because there's some sort of trauma related where you used food as a sort of to cope with stress or manage feelings you don't like about. So now if you're going to be like, I need to lose weight, I'm going to like stop eating and I'm going to start fasting and doing all this stuff,
Right.
you're kind of like, you're creating more harm because that part of you, that part of that person that was getting that coping out of that food is
You,
now sort of off balance, and you're sort of
you've abandoned that aspect of yourself.
Yeah.
You're
So it's
like, you
kind of,
don't need this food anymore. You don't need to be, you don't need to have this extra weight. I need to be healthy. I need to be slim. I need to look good and feel good. Like, and so that doesn't work, and that's where parts work comes in. So you get this part, talking to this part so that they can understand each other, and that everybody understands that they're special and everyone's needs are valid and important. And you get this to harmonize by opening up the dialogue within yourself, with your inner children, and with your current adult, and all the other aspects that arise from this, because it's usually not just one. and
yeah.
and you have the conversation with these multiple personalities, if you will, in a healthy way. That's a term that gets thrown under the bus, but if we're all being true to ourselves, we all are fragmented beings that have multiple personalities.
Hmm.
Some are just louder than others. Some are more in tune to those personalities than others, and in allowance of the others, because they understand that it's healthy, that it's there, and it's not something that needs to be suppressed or denied. It needs to be something that needs to be loved and welcomed.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're gonna try to create change in your life, you gotta like really, you gotta really go inward and ask yourself why you want to make these changes, what parts, what parts are gonna be affected by this change, which is really like listen to your resistance. If you would say like, okay, I'm gonna start going to the gym every single day instead of sleeping, I'm gonna get up, early and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna eat celery for lunch and blah 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 blah. And there's gonna be, maybe you're morally motivated in that moment, but then it's like that resistance comes and you gotta re-listen to that resistance and give that resistance a voice. And if not, you're just gonna be that's why that change is gonna happen. And
Right.
I noticed a lot of times the biggest change happens is really just through acceptance, and really just by accepting yourself as you are in that moment, in your moment right now, is like fully loving yourself, fully accepting yourself, embracing yourself, embracing those things that you don't like about yourself, those things, and with loving acceptance. And it seems like when you do that, instead of trying to change it and thinking that you have to be different than what you are, and you're just like, okay, you know what, I'm going to give you, you're allowed to be who you are, you're allowed to be, have these faults, and what you label as the faults, not really faults, or
Yeah.
these things you don't like, and just allow them. And it seems that's usually like kind of like okay, because now you feel safe to be yourself, you feel safe to be maybe whatever it is that you don't like about yourself, those things, those insecurities.
Mm.
Then it's when you put yourself in that safe bubble like that of loving acceptance and awareness, it seems like those things kind of work themselves, almost kind of work themselves out on their own in a way,
Yeah.
because they're not being shamed, they're not being judged, they don't feel like there's no pressure to be different anymore.
That's really well said, and that's a huge thing that we could all benefit from embracing more, and bringing more awareness to, in ourselves and with others in conversations, is maybe realizing, um, stopping ourselves just in the moment, being totally present and aware with when we're shaming and guilt tripping others, that we love, that are close to us, even those that we first meet and bring into our experience. We do. It's so widely accepted on so many levels in cultures all around the world, that it becomes something that you don't even realize you're doing. Or you're like, what do you mean? Like, I've had my partner several times tell me, like, stop shaming me and guilting me. I'm like, I'm just having a normal conversation with you, right? Like, pump the brakes over there. Like,
Mhm.
but in that moment, she's genuinely expressing, um, herself in a way where she's feeling that doesn't matter how I'm saying it, what I'm saying, where it's coming from. That doesn't matter. She'll say like, "Hey, I feel like you're shaming me right now, and you're making me, you're guilt tripping me." And to not pay attention to that is basic. I mean, you end up gaslighting someone like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, right. So as tough as it is to hear sometimes, because you feel like, wow, that didn't come from a place of, I'm like, I'm joking, or that's something that comes out like relax. I'm just like, those are all things that if we catch those things and just stop and realize this person has just expressed ABC. Let me not refute it, but be with it, validate it, take a breath, and be open to understanding it versus saying you're wrong, stop it, or like, in some instances maybe we're even like, come on, stop being so soft, or relax. We say these very dismissive
Quit being so dramatic.
things. Right, quit being so dramatic. But I think before we can do that on a more expert and loving level, we have to learn to do that for ourselves
Yes.
when those conversations come up. And it's as easy it is to say, folks, I know it is immeasurably difficult to adopt. We have to learn. We have to learn to fall madly, deeply, passionately in love with ourselves. We have to. I'm learning it every day. I'm working toward understanding what that means for me every day, and it changes every time I find a little bit more of a level that I can comfortably, confidently step into and be like, hey, like, this is kind of cool, man. Like, is this what like really loving myself means? Like, and then you start to see, oh, I could love myself like even more. It's kind of like the beginning of a relationship, really. Like, you're like, I'm starting to fall in love with this person, because you're starting to feel the feels or whatever. And when you really start learning to love yourself, it's not, I don't think it's a love at first sight type thing, man. Maybe for some of you, and congratulations if you've achieved that. That's splendiferously magical. Golf claps and poetry snaps. But for me, it's a slow, and maybe for a lot of you, you have the same experience when learning to love yourself, because you come from a place of such incredible trauma. And so your guards are up, your walls are up, and loving others is the same as loving yourself. You're like, hey, whoa, I don't trust, or this isn't safe, or. But in order to have those healthy relationships, those sustainable, rich, beautiful, just why we live for living life relationships, I mean, we've said this many times in this podcast, it all starts with here. And then you attract others because they feel that, wow, this person is such love, or that the way that you hold yourself when you love yourself to those other levels, that opens up your experience, your vibration, whatever words you want to dial into it, for others to be attracted to you and your experience.
Yeah, and sometimes you can learn about loving yourself through your other relationships, are great vehicles for learning that. Like, for example, the relationship I had with somebody is, this person went through a lot of childhood trauma, felt like a lot of neglect. It seemed like our traumas kind of lined up in some way. Like, we were very kind of similar in like a lot of stuff. And I wanted to give her the world. I wanted to be like her Superman. I wanted to make everything happy for her and give her everything that, but really what I was doing is I was trying to love myself through loving her. I realized, because it's almost like her inner child was a lot like my inner child. So it was way like relationship was like me trying to like heal my inner child through loving her and giving her everything that she ever wanted and make her life happy and everything. And then I didn't really realize that till it broke up, and I was thinking like, man, like, why was I so like attracted to her? Why was I so infatuated? And not that, just meditating on that. And I realized it was like, I need to be that person towards me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like, the Superman to her. I need to be my own Superman. I was trying to like, I have that inner child that was like wounded and everything like that. And I was trying in a way that, because she kind of represented that in a way, an external effect. I was trying to heal that, which I need to be, love myself, give myself everything that I want, give myself everything that I'm dreaming of, and be that person for me, And once I started doing that and putting myself first, that, changed a lot in my life by
Yeah.
doing that. And like you said, when you start loving yourself, um, it doesn't reflect outward to people. People notice that. And that definitely makes you more attractive person, brings a lot to you, not just like physically, but just, your energy, your vibe,
Yeah.
especially when it's authentic. You're
Yeah.
not sitting to be like, oh, like I'm the shit or anything like that, but you're just like,
Yeah.
you're like the sun, and you're just, people just come to you, and people flock, and people are just like, oh wow, they want to be around that. People are attracted to that, because that's what everybody wants, really. People want that love, and people always looking for that, except, you know people are usually looking outside themselves instead of going within.
And there's as I've learned, because there was a time in my life where I felt like I was that shining sun, and everywhere I turned, like I just felt like I was surrounded by people, and it was such a wonderful thing. I wasn't trying to to um be like the center of attention type of thing. It was just happening, because I was in a place of very, very, very minimal resistance. And as I shared with you, I was smoking a lot of weed. So like all that, and for me, cannabis does, it just strips all the resistance, and I hum like a bird, bro. I shine like the brightest beam, and that, and I was like, wow, that, like, this is my answer. All I gotta do is smoke weed and I'll have all these friends, and like, and I'm wearing tie dye, so like I got that brightness on. I've got bright colored socks on, and it was magnet, but it wasn't real, and it wasn't sustainable. It was a great lesson. It was such a fun time in life to be surrounded by so much laughter and fun and camaraderie and community and this and that, but it wasn't genuinely me. It was a bypassed version of me. So
Yeah.
eventually it went away, and it left me heartbroken. I was like, why? And I was skinnier. I lost all this weight, right? And I had all these new friends, and I was in a band, and drum circles and this, and it was like love, light, and laughter. It was all that wonderful, just woo bliss, right?
Right.
But it was denying, disowning, suppressing all those other aspects of me, just to have this. And it wasn't conscious. It was just like the cannabis just said, just said, whoop, no time for that. Whoop. And the mushrooms were like, definitely
Mm.
no time for that. We are flying like an eagle. We're humming like a bird. And everything's positive, everything's great. And that's what it brings it back to the earlier point. When it comes to change, you'll just go, I'm losing the weight. I'm doing this. And yeah, you'll lose all the weight. You'll get ripped. But eventually, 5 years, 10 years down the line, that inner child is going to come back screaming in a way that he, she, or they cannot be denied. And things will unravel, things will fall apart, crumble, explode all around you, and your life will be served to you in a way that might not be very comfortable. And that's because your child is like, I hope you had a fun time, but I've been here waiting for you to give me that love and attention this whole time, that you just refuse to do. So if you're in a place where you're like, okay, Joe, I've done the work, and I do this, and I do parts work, and I do completion process, I do trauma resolution work, I go to a therapist, it's not working, I just want to lose the weight. And we're just using losing the weight as an example. It could be starting a career,
Yeah.
launching a new business. It could be anything. But for me, I want to lose weight, so we'll just use this as an example, so I can talk personally about it. If you feel like I just have to get moving, I just have to go work out, and I have to start eating, good, do that,
Mhm.
do it. However, to Ray's point earlier, when you jump into that change and you embrace that, and you're committed and determined, just don't go la 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 to those voices that come up. When you're in the process of doing this and you're so committed and you hear those things come up, those are not coming up to tell you to stop working out, to stop eating a certain way. They're coming up to say, hey, don't forget about me. So don't forget about that aspect of you. Bring attention to it. Doesn't mean you have to stop walking. You can keep walking and listen to this voice. You could work
Right.
out and listen to this voice. You could be eating your salad and listen to and have this conversation, right?
Mhm.
And just as we always sprinkle into each and every one of these episodes, just allow yourself to bring loving awareness to whatever emerges during this time of commitment to transformation. right?
Yeah. So I think really the key to change, if you're gonna try to like make a change in your life, is really to be in alignment first. As much of you in alignment as much, because sometimes there's maybe parts of you that are you don't know that are unaligned, because those, like you said, those voices are gonna come up, and it doesn't always mean you always have to listen to it, but it doesn't mean you always have to obey that. I mean, a lot of times when you're working out, you're on a treadmill, and you say you're gonna do like 45 minutes of jogging. Sometimes 25 minutes into it, your body would be like, yeah, you know what? We should just leave now. It would be better just to so you're always going to get a voice of resistance no matter what you're doing that. And I guess there's also a point where discipline comes in too, because you don't always want to be like, if I'm on a diet and I pass by pizza and I'm like, oh man, there's always gonna be that voice be like, one slice of pizza is not gonna hurt anything. Come on, come on. Doesn't mean I have to give into that, voice. But I do have to acknowledge it though. I have to give it a voice and I have to acknowledge it. Like, okay, I hear what you're saying. You know what though? But is this gonna be good for the
Oh no, we have temporarily lost audio with Phoenix Ray. However, I'm sure he'll be back soon. In the meantime, please take this moment to like, share, follow, subscribe, leave a comment, do all those wonderful things, because each and every one of those things helps us in a boundless way. Are you back with us, Ray?
down back?
All right.
Well, so I
Welcome.
said, you got to give those things a listen to the resistance, but doesn't always mean you have to obey it. But you could say like, okay, that the voice comes in, hey, you should have a slice of pizza. You're on a diet. You could just be like, oh, well, thank you for that suggestion, but
Right, right. Versus, fuck you, man. Just get away. Like, no pizza. That doesn't work with this.
yeah,
Right.
and you could say, okay, that doesn't, thank you for that suggestion, but
right.
however, how is that going to make us feel in the long term?
Right.
And then it's kind of like, okay, it's you have to address it though instead
Right.
of looking at it.
And then maybe even um since I don't feel like pizza is the best decision for us right now as a whole, all of us together, like you said, in the long term, it might not serve us to the best degree. Is there something else I can give you in this moment?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, that's a good
And
point.
just
Yeah.
open the door and not even say like, can I give you this instead? But be even more open by just allowing the door to just fling wide open and say, I'm giving you the power. Because that's really I think a healing moment is when you can give that inner voice complete just strength and not options, but unlimited creativity.
Yeah.
Because I think then they claim like the trust is built there. And
Yeah, definitely.
I think that brings you closer to integration.
Yeah.
So Ray, not to put you on the on the spot here, but if someone like me, you know a lot about my story, and I just shared a little bit more, but very briefly,
Hmm.
wants to reclaim that I want, I want that life again. I want that fun again, right? I want that bliss again. I want to be surrounded by friends and family and tribe again. I want drum circles again. I want, but in a different way. Like I want it in a healthier way. I want it in a more authentic way, and sustainable way. I don't want my friends, um, you know, to to leave or to not trust me or to, like to feel like um I'm not safe to be around because sometimes I get angry or sometimes I, like and for a while I was just like, oh, I lost everyone, but I blamed it on everyone, right?
Hmm.
Like they just don't understand me and they're just not, they're not operating on the level I am, like they're not as aware as I am, and like and but that's really, I don't think that was the case. I think
Yeah.
I think I if I mean it's not tough to say, but the reality is when I met all these people, um they saw something and they believed in something and they fell in love with something that wasn't entirely what I was selling, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when the real me came out, they're like, whoa,
Well,
that,
you know what? I think that part of you was real. I wouldn't say that it was fake. It was
oh,
just
thank you. Oh, thank you
it
for
was,
saying that. Thank you.
it was
Thank you.
real. It's just that there were other parts that were subconsciously that were still there that were coming up, and I think that were like. So I wouldn't say you were being phony or you being fake.
Thank you. Cause I'd
It
never
was
felt
just
that I
like
was.
so. This maybe that's actually more. You know what it is? I actually think that it really probably is an expression of your true self. What you're explaining. However, you weren't doing the inner work, and that other stuff was just popping up, and I think maybe and it was subconscious stuff, so you weren't aware of it, and that's why you were projecting, and that's why you were blaming like, oh, it's everyone else's fault, not my
Right.
fault. I'm Mr. Holy, I'm Mr. Fun, I'm Mr.
Right.
Enlightenment.
I am riding on a yacht down the flow of divinity right now. Come join me on my vessel. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I feel like I was king of the world,
that's
I
a lot of
really,
what it means too is Ram Dass talked about this stuff a lot. He said after he had his awakening in India and he came back to the US and he said he was phony holy for a while and everybody expected him to be Mr. like Guru. And he said, people will come over and he see people pull up in his driveway. He would have to, hurry up and turn off TV and like light some incense and be like, Namaste. And he's
Oh no, we lost Ray again. Ay, ay, ay. Mamma mia. He'll be back shortly, folks. Let me take this opportunity right now to let you know how you can donate to the Bodhi Bros. There are two links that'll be down below.
sorry.
There's a PayPal link, welcome back, Ray, and a Venmo link. You can, if you decide to make a donation to get us some fancier, green screens and microphones and just stuff to keep the show floating and elevating at the same time. Just in your little message, put donation for the Bodhi Bros because we use those links for other projects as well. So donation for the Bodhi Bros, PayPal or Venmo. Welcome back, Ray. Go ahead, Ram Dass. Fake.
He was just saying that, he would come in and he felt like he had to be something different than what he was
Yeah,
for a while because everybody expected him to be Ram Dass and
yeah.
the right Ram Dass and kind of like how everybody expected you to be, Super John
Yeah,
and
it was John, tie-dye John with a J.
John and
Tie-dye
that and
Jedi.
it kind of got, he said he got old after a while and he said he was just like he just had to start being himself. And he's like, he said some people got, were disappointed, but he's like, now it's like, he's like when you meet people, if he's not like on, he's not on, he just has to be who he is in the moment and
Yeah,
not be afraid to that, not be, because it's like, like speaking of change,
yeah,
we go up and down many times during the day, sometimes we could feel like really high and then other times we'll feel like low and
yeah,
you meet somebody, you could run into somebody at a grocery store and you're like tie-dye John. And then, you can meet somebody 15 minutes later at a gas station and you're just John, and
yeah,
you just gotta be who you are,
yeah, yeah,
authentic in that moment. And whoever you are is an expression of that. And the more you clear away that stuff within you that, will do that trauma work, I think it's sort of like they call it kind of like polishing, you're polishing that stuff away, like that sun's inside of you, that light. But the thing is, blocking that light is all that junk, all that trauma, all that social conditioning, all that stuff we don't love about ourselves that we think that we're ashamed about. All that stuff blocks the light from coming out.
yeah,
And we can't force that light out. We have to just clear. It's like we're polishing, polishing that away, making it clear so that light can come out of us. So I think tie dye John was definitely probably an expression of your deeper self, of your higher self. Is just that you didn't clean up your act yet enough. You didn't done as much of the inner work.
yeah. I appreciate you saying that, man. I'm over here having a moment as I'm listening to you because I really, really appreciate you saying that he wasn't fake because he wasn't, man. He
No,
was.
it wasn't.
I miss those people. I miss that guy every day. I'm like, I just want a morsel of him back because it was real. And you said Ram Dass, like, no insult to him, but he would rush to to light the incense and stuff. I loved to light the incense, the sage, the Palo Santo. I loved every part of sharing a crystal with someone or gifting someone with a silly action figure or something. Like I really felt in that flow state that this was the essence of John.
Yeah.
And I lost all the weight. I was dancing. I was singing. I mean, I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to do for my life or what kind of career. That was my life, just people and community and being me and celebrating felt like an authentic expression of everything as a child that I loved and wanted to be and do. And I felt like I lost it all, and all of it, like it was so much love and so much fun and so much just connection, and then it just felt like it all went away. And so my question was is how do I how do I get it back? And I know it'll never be the same, but I genuinely think that I can be that tie-dye guy again.
Yeah, because that tie-dye guy was you.
Right.
Wasn't was
And right, right. And I can welcome him back and all the other parts of me that during that time I didn't allow to be part of
you. Mhm.
the party.
Right.
And maybe dare I say come back in a way that's even more loving and real than the first time around.
I think he will be because you've learned so much more along this process. And now, when you are tie-dye John, and let's say another aspect of you comes up, instead of you were pushing it away, because whatever you resist persists, and whatever you push away usually comes back stronger. So you're pushing those parts away because it didn't align with what you wanted to be at the time. So it was coming back stronger. Now that you've learned tie-dye John can be there, you could be, which is, to me, tie-dye John is who you really are, the true essence of who you are. And I think when that stuff comes up, instead of just before, you know how to deal with it now.
Sure. I could
Now
think.
you know how to deal with it. So now it's not going to bring you back down. Maybe back it down a little bit, but it's not going to. You're not going to crash. Now it's going to be a bump on the road instead of just, you know,
And I could think,
falling
yeah.
to like that.
And I could think
So
back to all those. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
maybe it's connecting with that, tie-dye John, maybe doing parts work with that tie-dye John, and maybe bringing meditation and having tie-dye John sit in front of you and in connecting with tie-dye John, maybe seeing the cord between you and tie-dye John and telling that aspect of yourself what you really tell that tie-dye John what you want, what you know now. And be like,
Yeah.
yeah, listen,
Yeah. 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 Like, hey man, you thought you had friends, but and you really did. But were you the best friend to them you could have been? Like, were you? Because now I think back to all those people I met and how I was so not present with them. I was entertaining, I was caring, I was loving, but I'd never showed up for any of those people in a way that I can show up for them today.
Oh yeah.
I can't, listening to them on a whole new level, not shaming them, not guilt tripping them, allowing them to be sad, depressed, angry, not trying to change them and cheer them up and make them feel happy, but holding that space for them and nurturing in them a true expression of themselves versus trying to make them happy like me, make them tie-dye dancing, John spiritual like me, but together celebrating the just the beauty of raw authenticity and the human experience, versus pushing and together being an allowance of where you are, where I am, and us coming together and embracing and being more wildly more intimate than I was before. And you're right. 6 years ago plus when this was happening, thought I had all the answers. And I was like, man, I'm everyone's best friend and they all want to be my friend. And then they didn't. Not everyone, but
Yeah.
you know, and some magical, beautiful people are still around, and I'm endlessly thankful to them. But wow, like it's just I'm 6 years later, right? You want to talk about change from my heart to the eternally gracious and glorious partner that is my present partner. She helped change me in ways I wasn't ready for and I never knew could exist in a human being. She's so wise, so just understanding of the world and people, and helped me see that in me. And I would have never met you if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
Never. And now I can, because I'm not, because I ended up being terrified then of people. I brought so many people in and opened my house up and never locked my front door and just like let people come and go like a community center. And then I shut that part of my life off. I didn't even want people to know where I lived anymore.
Mm.
You know, like my house used to be a place where you could check in on Facebook. You know, now nobody knows where I live because I just got terrified of people because of how hurt I felt or betrayed or just not trusting, right?
Yeah.
But now I see that if you allow yourself to change and go through some what could be very, very difficult times, um, there's a way that you can create some incredible relationships on this planet in ways that you might even presently not even imagine possible. But I'm here to tell you, I mean, I got a buddy here that won't give up on me. And I would have never met him if I didn't allow myself to change. So
Yeah.
thank you for being my friend, Ray.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shit. Woo! Didn't think the tears were coming today, folks, but here they are.
There they are, man. Keeping it real for you guys.
Son of a gun. I was like, when you first pulled that card, man, I was like, this will be a quick 20-minute podcast. It's not going to, we've talked about this stuff before.
Right.
Ay, ay, ay.
I guess it was the right card.
Yeah, I feel like there's a few more things I want to touch upon. Let me take a breath for a second, change the backdrop here. Ray is what?
Part of this I could even read too. I didn't read the.
Oh, yeah. Do that.
Read that if you want. I can read that while you.
Speaking of friends, let me bring in a few friends here. All right, bada bing and bada boom.
Nice. All right, so the top part says, I am the turquoise moon mother, and I come to you now with a message of change. This may be change that you want or change that you fear, but either way, I will show you how to use the change to become stronger, wiser, and more empowered to fulfill your divine destiny. Do not fear the changes around you and within you. Trust in the timing of what is happening in your world. So I think that trust part is really important.
Yes, I like what I'm remembering what you said earlier that I wanted to touch upon before we closed out our session today, and that is you said you don't loving yourself. You don't have to do it alone. In fact, you probably shouldn't ever have to do it alone because putting yourself in isolation, so yeah, there's time and a place to be alone and have your quiet time and solitude, but we are creatures of community. We are creatures of connection and we need people. They say it takes a tribe, to raise a child, and it's true, or a village to raise a child, and it's true. And when we work against that inherent reality and love, then it's counterproductive to creating a healthy, sustainably beautiful, magical life. So if you're single, if you're looking for someone, and someone says, and this happens a lot of times, like, oh, you got to learn to love yourself first, or love yourself. In fact, that's come up in a card recently, like love yourself. I did a reading recently, And that doesn't mean that you can't be loved by someone else.
Right.
Right. That doesn't mean that you're not ready to be loved by someone else.
Hmm.
That means that, and please, like, this is very important. That card comes up a lot for a lot of people, and it's not it's not a sentence to isolation land. It doesn't mean you're not worthy of a partner. What that means is that being open to love, right, means, right, loving yourself, right, and you're going to attract another person. And in the beginning it might be like, oh, I don't know if this is the right person or whatever, because there's some like this, that, and the other. That doesn't mean it's not the right person. That means it's the perfect person for right now, for you to
Right.
together work on things that might be triggering in you, and this and that. Like, it's not always rainbows, daisies, and unicorns. That's great when the fireworks are happening. A lot of times it has to do with physical chemistry and just fun things, and likenesses, and what you enjoy doing, extracurricularly and otherwise, or whatever. But some of the most enriching relationships are when there's a little, not toxic tension, but things that make you question it and make you do this, like, whoa, like, why would you say that? Or no, that's not. And when you're feeling that in someone new that you're dating or trying to create a relationship with, that's actually a gift.
Hmm.
It doesn't always have to be effortless, because that's fostering change. That's someone telling you, like, hey, you're making me feel this way, and that's your opportunity to go, whoa, I am. I I do this with everyone. They use this people, this person retracting over here, right? And when you can go like, whoa, I am, that, see how that naturally brings that person towards you, right? It's just it's one of those not so common sense equations, to where by you surrendering, you're not saying, okay, you're right, I'm wrong, but you're saying, okay, my arms are wide open. Tell me, teach me how in this moment I've hurt you, or I've made you feel a way that's just not good, for you. and
Yeah.
and learning about other people's traumas. It's, God, man, it might sound like exhausting work. It might sound um like, wow, can't we just talk about, roller coasters and Batman? Like, why do we have to talk about this negative stuff? It's, someone's traumas aren't negative. Someone's traumas are what has brought them to this present day, and it has actually brought you specifically into their relationship. And I had to learn this. I'm like, oh my gosh, we constantly going to talk about the pain of the past, the pain of the past. Yes, yes, until there's no need to talk about it anymore. Because if someone is gifting you the opportunity to, they're exposing themselves, their innermost, like, treacherous, torturous fears and traumas and pains, and all this stuff. Wow, what a treasure. They trust you. And the more you listen, the more you genuinely care about what they're offering you, here's the secret, the less they're going to need to talk about it, because you're helping them heal those things by validating them, by giving them a place to safely express them, because they've been holding on to this for their entire lives, right?
Yeah, because sometimes we have that stuff within us we don't feel safe to express. We don't feel safe to, because maybe we don't trust, somebody we think we're gonna get, because maybe we shame that stuff about ourselves. We think that if we express it to somebody else, they're gonna shame it, as well, or judge us for it. So it's like when you find someone like that you could just be open to and you feel safe to express those things, that's such a valuable, thing to have. Such a valuable relationship. And even about relationships too. Sometimes the bad relationship was actually the right relationship because it taught you something that you needed. So don't always think those bad relationships. I look back at some things, I dated or whatever, like, wow, man, that was terrible. But then I look back and like, well, this is what I learned from that relationship. And,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to have the happy relationship I had now if I didn't go through those bad relationships. And I don't hate label them as bad. I mean, good and bad is just a
Right.
label. Let's just say, but they all had their meaning. They all had those things, that gift.
Yeah.
There was a gift in every relationship, no matter how bad or how wrong it went, that I was able to take away and build upon and be like, okay, that I learned about myself, that I learned about relating to other people. So that was able to take that and use that in towards the relationships I have now. And it's like, so there really is no wrong relationship or bad relationship. Really, every relationship is exactly what you need.
Right. And it's kind of this piggybacking on what you're saying and what we talked about earlier too. Um, like if you're in that place where you want a relationship now, you're like, I've been single for 5 years or 5 days. It doesn't matter, and no one's judging you. There's no right amount of time to be single. Like when you're ready for a relationship, manifest a relationship. And it's like that work. I'm gonna work out now. I'm gonna eat like this now. Remember what we said? That's great. Go and manifest that partner. And if they come into your life and you're like, man, this is just like my last, well, let's say just use boyfriend, right? It's just like my last boyfriend. This is just like my last relationship. He's the same, she's the same, they're the same. Like this time, listen. This time, be open to processing the information and why you've attracted this same type of person into your experience in a way that can now be transformative. Now, maybe you're not going to be with this person for 5, 6 years, 5 days or 6 months. Don't put an hourglass on it. Put loving awareness on it and say, what is this? I've attracted this relationship again. What can it teach me now so that I can have a healthier relationship with myself and others? Now, that doesn't mean stay in an abusive relationship. If it's abusive, it's abusive. 911, get out of there, right? But maybe you do so in a way this time that's a lot more healthy and a lot more rapidly than you've done in the past.
Hmm.
So, might you be a little fearful, trepid as far as allowing a new relationship in? Sure, absolutely. And that's understandable because maybe you've had nothing but abusive relationships. But maybe this time, if you allow yourself and one comes in and you kick that shit to the curb in 30 seconds or 30 minutes, that's empowering because
Yeah,
now you've stopped
yeah.
the cycle, right?
I did something like that too, where I wasn't putting myself first. I wasn't listening to my gut and my instincts in a relationship. I've told this before and everything, and I paid the price because my instincts were right. And then I dated a couple of girls, and like the one girl I dated, as soon as she started pulling shenanigans, it was like my gut came up like, oh, this is just like before. I felt like it was like a test. Like, did you really learn your lesson? Okay, here's a test. I'm gonna here. And so it was kind of like that last final test. Like, okay, as soon as the shenanigans came up, I was like, out of here, done. And it was like this time I listened to my instinct this time, so I felt like I passed that. I passed that test this time. So
That's
then
awesome.
now the person I'm with now, but I had to do that. Almost had to go through
Right.
that in order to be like, am I worthy? I'm worthy now. Okay, now I'm with the person who I'm with now. But I had to like do that and
Yeah.
be like, okay, I gotta walk the walk. Like, okay, prove that I really did learn that lesson. That I'm gonna put myself first, and I'm gonna listen to my instincts and trust my instincts being right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful healing work right there.
Right.
And hopefully by way of your actions that particular person got something beneficial from that experience as well. Like,
Hmm.
whoa, no one's ever left me that quickly, or no one's ever done that. Maybe that gives them a sense of introspection into, like, or just an awakening of sorts, like that opens the door to change for them,
Right.
especially if they're a very unfortunately abusive person, because that's born from trauma as well.
Yeah.
And maybe in your interactions, if they're you know very loving and respectable, that if you do decide to part ways rather expeditiously, because you're not allowing yourself to be in this type of dynamic anymore, you give them some parting gifts, if you will, on the way out of awareness for them to consider. You plant some seeds and you
Right.
say like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. And you're not throwing them under the bus. You're just hopefully making them more self-aware in a way that could serve them and others all around the globe moving forward, just by being authentic and empowered. And maybe your example in that moment helps transform and helps them heal and connect to themselves in a way that they've never experienced before.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Wow, what a freaking day on the Bodhi Bros over here. Forget about it.
Think about it. All right, man. Well, I don't have anything else to add.
Me neither. Whoo, I'm at, man, talk about when you find a person that you feel like you can open up to and share space with and feel like you're in a place of trust. I just did it with the world, but we can thank Phoenix Ray for providing
Thank
the
you.
spark to that, man. So just talking with you, man. I knew you weren't going to judge me. I knew you were going to support me. And
Of course.
and look, man, you might be in Ohio, I might be in Orlando, but it doesn't freaking matter, man. We have a connection. And today, that little part of me wanted to be heard, wanted to be expressed, and you allowed that. And I thank you for that gift, because in those
Rhino Bros.
tears, yeah, man, Rhino Bros for life, man. In those tears, that's it's gonna give me something to very much passionately, poetically, and deeply connect with in the coming days. And it's perfect timing, because I do want to be that person that's like, I'm not eating this anymore and I'm doing that and blah blah. But I'm bringing tie-dye John with me. I'm bringing little John with me. Okay. I'm bringing all the Johns with me this time, and we're going to listen to each other, and we're going to shed, and we're going to shred, but we're going to do it in a way that's not from the outside in, that's from the inside out.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to build something that's solid and believable and like just real and healthy.
Yeah. Definitely.
Watch me grow, bro. Big gains, baby.
Big gains.
All right, man. From our hearts to yours, get out there, get under the sun, get under the trees, get under the ones you love, and you know what I mean. We'll see you next time. Like, share, comment, follow, all that stuff. We're open. We want to talk about different things. We want to do different things. Give us your ideas, your inspirations. And we look forward to our next escapade together. I'm John with a J.
Phoenix Ray. We out.
We're out.